Hello everybody, welcome to Classic Reddit, where real humans read Ask Reddit content. Let's see what we can pick today. Let's do, have you ever not slept for so long that you started hallucinating? What was your experience? If you're interested in making your own YouTube content, at the end of this video, I'll share with you how you can reach out to us and work with us to use software that you can screen record, and all you have to do is read and add your own reaction to what the screen puts in front of you. And you can add your own creativity to figure out what exactly the screen is going to put in front of you, just like this. Today's question or Ask Reddit post is by Vicky1230. Have you ever not slept for so long that you started hallucinating? What was your experience? Yeah, after 70 hours or so, it's pretty disorienting and rational thinking starts to get very slow. The hallucinations are not realistic, but more like gaps in your vision that are shaped like things. Might see a silhouette at a distance or briefly around a corner. Very difficult to function in this state. Would not recommend. For me, sleep afterwards isn't very quality either. I usually wake up feeling shitty still. It feels like I'm stressing in my sleep. This is a very good description. I was reading and trying to put words to my experience. Gaps in vision shaped like things. Yep. I also saw a lot of light shifting. At the 24-hour mark, I no longer start to feel tired, and I start getting into a slightly euphoric, calm state. At 36 hours, my short-term memory goes to unable to keep any train of thought. Visual and auditory hallucinations are common. Up to 48-hour mark, my speech starts slurring until I can't even complete sentences. Man, this person can last 24 hours and get euphoric? Wow, I have trouble getting past like 11 hours conscious. My brother Doc says that when you're sleep deprived, your brain actually shuts off for tiny time slices every second. The more deprived, the longer the shutdown. I am generally sleep deprived, and when I read books to my children, my eyes will drift closed and I will keep talking like I'm reading the book, but it's not words in the book. My kids are pretty patient. Ha! That's a cool way to make stories. I had a few problems at home, so I didn't have anywhere to sleep. Wandered around town all night. Went to school after 3.5 days of no sleep. I fell asleep on my arms 4 times and couldn't read a clock. Ooh, epic post by Touchdown Ted. I suffered insomnia. From horrible insomnia. About 12 years ago. I was on Lexapro and one of the side effects is insomnia. At the time, that wasn't well documented. So I tried everything from Ambien to alcohol so that I could sleep. I would usually get about a 3-hour nap at most before being awake again. I would go 3 to 5 days without sleeping. Eventually, I hit the point of desperation and started recreational substances to try and knock myself out. There were several occasions of hallucinations, but the one that sticks out most is truly terrible. I was on day 6 without sleeping at least 5 hours. I was laying in bed and a friend came in to start talking with me. We had many great conversations since our friendship began, but hadn't talked in a while at that point. At that time, I told him how badly I was struggling and honestly how killing myself would have been easier. He said that he felt the same way many times, but that it was a terrible idea and I knew how badly it had messed up his family. When I looked at him, he was a bloody mess on the side of his face, jaw ripped apart, teeth missing, but talking to me like nothing was wrong. He had been dead for a few years at that point. Suicide, shot himself in the garage after years of substance abuse. And I just had a 3-hour conversation with a hallucination of a dead friend. I ended up switching meds to Celexa, and my sleep issues disappeared within a month. So, original poster. If you're having sleep issues, please, go see a doctor. It's a dark place that damn near took me. I was on Lexapro, and one of the side effects is insomnia? Wait, really? No one told me that. I'm on Lexapro now, and sometimes I have trouble getting to sleep at night. I really don't mind though, because I used to be really high on a dose of Zyprexa, and that knocked me out cold. And it was so bad that when I woke up in the morning, I was still completely exhausted, and had to drink an entire pot of coffee to be able to wake up and start working. And to make matters worse, I was knocked out so cold that I couldn't even dream at all, so I absolutely hated sleep. Wouldn't you, if you passed out completely exhausted and woke up instantaneously, but it's actually 8 hours later and you're still completely exhausted? What a waste of time. And now my psychiatrist wants me to increase my Lexapro, but at the same time, she also wants me to put on a small dose of Zyprexa to help me sleep. I wonder what will happen. But for now, I generally get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, though sometimes I might only get 4. I still feel at least somewhat rested in the morning, and on rare occasions, I'll just sleep all day. Holy, your story is by far the most scariest thing I've ever heard. Makes me question if hallucinations are indeed real alternate realities that humans can access. Hope you're okay. Oh, your story scared me. I'm never going to sleep less than 8 hours a day. It kind of seems like he was sent to you in that vulnerable state to help you. I know it could probably be a hallucination, but he could have been an angel too. Wow, this sounds extremely sad and terrifying. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm glad you're doing better now. Holy, my bro. My good bro. I hope you're having a better run of things now. Thanks for sharing. Honestly, stuff like this makes me believe in a spirit world, especially given how they responded. This reply to, have you ever not slept for so long that you started hallucinating? What was your experience? Overseas, it's by random screen names. Overseas on a deployment, started getting sleep deprived for a period of time. Started hallucinating the big dang palm trees moving across the road, like in Lord of the Rings when the trees walk, but with palm trees. This always makes me question some of the weird I saw. Was it real, or was I just really tired from overtime tempo? Came here to post something similar. 7 months of interrupted sleep nights, talking like 6 hours a night, broken up into 3 blocks, and my eyes played some real tricks on me. Definitely had some, either it's a ghost or I'm running on 2 pots of coffee kind of nights. I was on mounted patrol in Afghanistan for so many days that I fell asleep standing in the turret and smacked my face on the M19. Oh, shipmate. Deployment for show. Mine were auditory. I would hear loud bangs, alarms, people screaming. I would have conversations with people who weren't there. Also, shadows and lights would move and change and swoop at me. Yeah, it's so scary when your brain lies to you about sensory input. I can relate to this. We used to work at 3 and 1 12s. 3 and 1 through 12s? I don't know what that means. The 12s are really more like 15. I worked the night shift on one of these deployments working in ECP. I remember standing and my eyes flickering, and I'd constantly see a chick looking like the Grudge rolling over the road in front of me at a distance, or shrubs moving. This went on for many months like this. My first deployment was fueled by Red Bull mixed with creatine, liquid cocaine we called it. I couldn't trust my eyes because the shadows were constantly fucking with me. I went roughly 4 days on 5 hours sleep total. I could function fine, but I would just constantly hear things like people mumbling right next to me. Yeah, it's not like you see pink elephants on parade or anything. You think you hear people chatting behind you, or you see stuff moving on the edge of your vision. Super creepy and unfun, but not particularly dramatic. You function fine? I get wicked insomnia where I only sleep a few hours a night for like 2 nights, and even then I'm shaky and I get very jumpy and irritable and sad. I can barely function, and driving is terrifying. Hey yo, little shorty, let me whisper in your ear. Heyo, shorty, what's your name? Let me talk to ya. Let me buy you a drink. I guess that's lyrics to a song. A buddy of mine landed a painting job working inside of a big commercial building, and he basically stayed in the place for 6 days straight, smoking some meth and painting to meet his deadline and avoid hiring a crew to help him. What the fuck? On the 6th day, okay, I gotta restart reading this first. And it's by Big Mike's Being Nice. A buddy of mine landed a painting job working inside of a big commercial building. And he basically stayed in the place for 6 days straight, smoking crystal meth and painting to meet his deadline and also avoid hiring a crew to help him. On the 6th day, the building caught fire and he ran into the lobby. He was pulling people out into the street and yelling to call 911. The firemen showed up, but they couldn't locate a fire because there was not a fire. He was hallucinating. So apparently you gotta go for 5 days, not 6. Ex-addict was driving home after a 3-day meth bender. Needed food, so drove into a McDonald's drive-thru. When I was asked for my order, I replied, "McChicken meal, please." Then they asked me again, and I said, "McChicken meal, please." Then they asked me again, and I was like, "Can't you hear me? McChicken meal." And that's when I realized I wasn't actually saying anything. I was just replying in my head. Jeez. I used to abuse Adderall and would stay up 3 days straight working on bullshit projects that I never finished. Anyway, one time I was at the end of a 3-day bender where I had taken about 10 days worth of Adderall. As I lay down to sleep, I started hearing my mom arguing with my brother and his girlfriend. It then went on for a long time, and I was like, surely they have to be at work and this will end soon. Eventually, my brother's baby started to cry, and the adults were too busy arguing to calm down. I said that and stormed out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and the house was completely empty. Fellow ex-addict here, a lot of times this happened to me, where I thought I'd said something, but really, all I'd done is think it. This is weird. This has happened to me before, but not on drugs. Often, when I'm like half awake, I start thinking I have things to do, I want to do, exactly how I want to do it, and then for some reason I've convinced myself that I did those things. But then I come to and I realize that I'm still laying down and I haven't done anything yet. I honestly read this as, "Can't you fucking hear me?" Maybe I should go to sleep. When I was 13 or 14, I would have read this and laughed, thinking, that sounds awesome, to be so messed up you don't know if you're talking or not. As a middle-aged adult, the idea terrifies me. To lose your mind is a terrible thing. My grandparents were like that when dementia settled in. It's no way to live. I've experimented with a fair share of substances, but fortunate to not get hooked. I've lost my marbles for a few hours here or there, but an addict doesn't get a choice. It comes with the territory. Ooh, an epic post by Sheik here Boti. Oh, I butcher these Reddit names so bad. I need some water. 1 second. I stayed up for 3 days straight when I was 17. On the 3rd day, I kept hearing people call my name as if they wanted to ask me a question. It didn't help that I also thought it would be a good idea to go to school that day. Multiple times a day, I also thought it would be a good idea to go to school. Multiple times a day, I would bolt upright and look around to see who wanted my attention, only to see my fellow students huddled over their work. It got worse as the day went on. My friends were a little worried about how weird I was acting. I walked home after school, listening to my headphones, like normal, but I still kept hearing someone call my name. The music made it worse. Whatever I was hearing was already kind of muffled, and having a song playing in my ears only seemed to obscure it more. When I finally did get home, I told my mom I wasn't feeling well, went to my room, and went straight to sleep. 4 in the afternoon. As I nodded off, I heard that voice, calling for me again, making me jerk out from my sleep. This repeated a couple times until I convinced myself that I already told my mom I was sick, and if she really needed me, she could come get me. I finally went to sleep and didn't wake up until 2 a.m. to use the bathroom, and then went to sleep afterwards again until 9 a.m. next day. I was an idiot. This is a very similar experience at about the same age, same amount of time awake. I've always had sleep issues, but I'll never do that again. Oh yeah, people calling you for your name definitely happens to me all the time when I'm sleep deprived. I keep asking my family if they called for me multiple times, and they look at me like I'm crazy. When I was in the army, I was up for IIRC 65 hours. I knew it was time that I needed sleep when I saw a 20-year-old chicken cross the road, and later I was trying to avoid the reflective markers, thinking they were oncoming cars. Yeah, I saw shadow creatures, and I thought they were out to get me. Me too. I'd been sleep deprived for weeks, less than 3 hours a night most nights. And I hadn't slept the night before. I was out on a walk with some friends, and we stopped for a bit, and I started to see the shadows move. Then they looked like a pile of bodies, and then I was convinced they'd come drag me into the pit. Oh, original poster, get some sleep. This experiment isn't worth it. This reply by Halaroo. I hadn't slept for about 72 hours when I went to the ER. Doctor gave me Ambien. I go home, get in bed, and take one. A few minutes later, the floor was covered in water and the walls were melting. It was raining outside, and the water on my windows was marching in formation. I've never known that was the sleep deprivation or maybe the effects of Ambien. I never took another one. I was prescribed Ambien once. I took it and could still wake up on it, but I started seeing the shadows in the corner of my room curling up and almost moving. It was freaky. I don't take Ambien anymore. Ambien can do that, but honestly, I'd think it would be a combo of both. I'd never understood why they'd give Ambien when they could just give you a benzo. It works way better and it doesn't do that. I took one once at the suggestion of an ex and had a hallucination of a blue cartoon log being sawed in half with a bendy saw, complete with all sorts of other shit. I kept giggling and closing my eyes and pretending to fall asleep. I literally said out loud, "That's some up shit." This epic post by Temperature Material. Ambien is a horrible drug. I would take one, get insomnia, take another because I forgot I had already taken one. Forgot, take another, tried hiding the bottle from myself, but amnesia self knew and took more. Once, as the amnesia was kicking in, I thought, I wish I had some Reese's cups. Too bad there aren't any in the house. Snap of the fingers, I wake up the next morning with half-eaten toast, covered with peanut butter and cocoa powder on my chest, and on a plate on my bed. Cocoa powder everywhere. My best guess was that I tried to make my own Reese's cups. In addition, I apparently burned several rounds of toast because I had thrown them outside. I had also sent some garbled emails, work emails. Before the amnesia fully kicked in, I hallucinated the following. My blue sheets on my bed turned into an ocean. A pile of clothes on my dresser turned into a spinning pile of clothes, shooting colorful strobe lights. I hid under my sheets because that's up and disturbing. The folds of the sheets turned into the faces of old people, and their mouths moved in synchrony with mine. If I poked the faces, they would disappear and reappear as a different face. Needless to say, I stopped taking it after a week. Thank God I never drove anywhere. Oh, I really liked Ambien for getting me back on a decent sleep schedule, but taking it after being awake for 72 hours, that seems like an intuitively bad idea. This was up there as one of my worst decisions ever. I was in college and had been incredibly sick for weeks, coughing so badly through the night that I was only getting 1 or 2 hours of sleep. At the worst of that, I was desperate and took a dose of codeine cough syrup, NyQuil, and a small amount of Ambien to try and get a few hours of sleep before midterm. I'm sure everyone can guess where this is going, but I couldn't sleep and ended up on total rainbow walls, floating wavy bed, and phantom music for about 5 hours. It was utterly terrifying and definitely very dangerous. I do not recommend. Never had an Ambien trip, but from what I've heard, it gives crazy hallucinations if you stay up on it. I think it's your dream part of your brain firing off while your eyes are open and awake. After a long night shift at the hospital, I took an Ambien to sleep through the morning. It really freaked my husband out when I sat up in bed and asked him what was going on in our wedding picture because the long line of bridesmaids and groomsmen were suddenly doing the can-can, and the clean but unfolded clothes in the laundry basket below the weird can-can phenomenon came to life, and they stood up and like a person were wearing them, but there was no person. First and only time I took Ambien, I swear to you, I fell asleep, but when I woke up, I saw that I had tons of grocery bags, and my keys were just thrown on the floor. I lost several hours and apparently drove, with no memory of it. Ambien is some scary shit. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time, effort, and attention. If you're interested in using reader tools to create YouTube content where you can browse Reddit and explore content you like and add your own reactions to it, record your screen, and make your YouTube channel that way, let us know. Please go to the About page on this YouTube channel, click the CAPTCHA code to get the email, and contact us. And I'm telling you that stuff because, maybe you should work for it. CAPTCHAs are hard. Nowadays, passing a CAPTCHA is a tricky thing, especially some really good Google ones. You know the ones that are like, identify that traffic light. And then you do it, and it's like, all right, now show us all the cars. And there's like pictures of boats, and there's pictures of boat cars, and you're like, what about this boat car motorcycle thing? Is this a boat? I honestly don't know, Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.